Hey there, everybody. Well, welcome back to my cynical side. You know, every generation has some issue with the generation before it or previous generations, and every older generation has some issue with the new generation coming in. It's just the way it's always been. There's ageism, classism, all of that aside. When you see younger people coming up in the world as you get older, there's always kind of a roll of the eyes because the quote kids of today syndrome is always prevalent. It's something that you can kind of laugh off because society does what it does. Things change. When I was a kid, my parents probably thought the same thing of me listening to Ozzy Osbourne and rap songs. It just sounded absurd. They didn't understand the humor. We moved into, say, the 90s when shows like Ren and Stimpy, for example, came out. It was one of the first absurd cartoons that really made no real sense. I mean, it had, sure, a message under it, but the idea was absurdity. And I believe these were the early days of, quote, absurdity. Move into the modern day, and there are memes and a whole variety of different methods to convey how we feel about life. And the upcoming generations have a completely different take on life than my generation did. And that's respectable. The fact that people use Instagram and YouTube, I use YouTube, I always have for a long time here. It's easy for people to point the finger at others and say, oh, that's a ridiculous way to live, or, oh, that's not even a real job. We see the gig economy, and we know how hard it is to find a good job and to pay and even rent, let alone own a house for young people. So most young people are looking for an out. They're looking for a quicker way, a better way to make an income. And one of those ways is by being a, quote, are you ready for it? Influencer. And I need to talk about this because being an influencer, even though it may pay the bills, it's not a, quote, job. If a person works really hard to promote themselves and their brand, and they're able to use that to get ahead and to sponsor companies that they respect, I'm all for that. In fact, that's often been the dream of, people in my generation to become, quote, movie stars, move to Hollywood. People wanted to go down there and hit it big and be rock stars and musicians. Since I was a kid, being a rock star was going to Hollywood back then. Finding people, meeting people, getting connections. Today it's completely different. It's still about connections, but today it's different. Somebody can sit behind their computer, never leave their house, and become an instant megastar. And I think that that's great because this opens the door for a lot more people who have talent to be recognized. But what's happened is it's been infiltrated by people who have no talent, of people who are entitled, arrogant, ignorant of the world. We have the Kim Kardashians of society. She is the ultimate example and the epitome of what I'm talking about. Somebody who became famous because of a tape, a controversy. Look at her body. The whole world is about tabloids. It's nothing new. I grew up with the National Enquirer in front of every, checkout. This has always been the way. People want to see the extreme. They want the hyperbole. They want the craziness, which is understandable. And there's a whole world surrounding that. But what bothers me is these typical American kids who decide they want to be YouTube stars. And then when they have, say, 10,000 followers, all of a sudden they feel like they should get a bunch of free shit. Now, I've read several different blogs and, articles about some of these YouTube influencers. A lot of them will, for example, write a letter to or write an email. Sorry, nobody writes letters anymore, right? They'll write an email to a restaurant and say, oh, yeah, we're coming to your town and we'd like to come to your restaurant and get a free meal. And they'll say, we could, sponsor and talk about your restaurant on our channel or post the food on Instagram and get a few customers. Now, sometimes this is a trade-off. I think that, that's fair enough. Exposure, it's advertising. I get it. But there are people who, like one girl I saw who wrote a 1-star review for a restaurant and then proceeded to say it was like the best meal she's ever had. It was wonderful. But after she told the the manager that she was an influencer, they didn't take anything off of her bill. Giving it a 1-star review because the meal was wonderful, but she didn't get any free shit out of it. Now, I think that this is a perfect example of how a lot of people act. These young kids who want, and adults who want, they want a free tanning booths, they want free manicures, they want to look good, and they want to feel good. And look, this doesn't even break into the makeup world of the Jeffree Stars of the internet, which this whole subculture of internet influencers with their quote palettes and all of their makeup, it's such a bunch of fake bullshit to me. And what's even worse is that when you start to insult some of these people, you're considered a hater. Oh, because some of them are trans or some of them are gay, so you can't talk about them bad. No, bullshit. I'm the same way about, trans weightlifters in the Olympics. I don't agree with it. I have my own opinions on things. I'm not a hater. I just have a view on how people use their status as a minority to, when it comes to these, a lot of these groups, to say, I can get away with this and you can't kind of attitude. Like the whole surrounding group around Jeffree Star and these makeup artists, to me, is gross. It's disgusting. I don't feel like these people have ever lifted a finger in their life to do any real labor. Does that mean anything? Yeah, it does to me. It really does. When people haven't actually done any real work in their lives, when people have never suffered any real adversity, they begin to latch onto the most pathetic things as being a problem for them. Oh no, there's a controversy on the internet. Oh no, 2 YouTube models are going at it again. Oh, what will we ever do? Oh, we're heartbroken. But hey, I stand alone in a lot of ways in being disgusted by these things because people watch it. Millions of people love it. Not just for the controversy or drama. They actually love watching people do stupid things, treat each other like shit, have fake arguments online, and completely cover their faces with plastic makeup. And hey, that's a thing. It's a thing. Who am I? I'm just a hater, right? No, I'm not. I think it's fine that people do what they do. It's when they use their leverage to think that they are, that they deserve something. It's entitlement that bothers me. I have no problem with people receiving free things, no problem with people making money off of what they do. But look, I've heard of people with like 60 or 100 followers on YouTube try to get free photographers for their wedding, things like this. I think I have a total of maybe 25,000 subscribers total between my channels, most of them on my main channel. I have about 4 million views total over 10 years. That's not a lot, but let's just say I have never used any of that as leverage to say, hey, give me some free shit. The only time I have self-promoted and said, hey, I have a lot of subscribers, was never to get anything free, but rather to promote people that I like. Like when I talked to, I was talking about Prof the other day, the rap artist, and I was saying, hey, I'd promote you on my channel if you'd come to Portland. I don't want to make anything off of it. It's about sharing, and I feel like that's what we should be using. Our connections and our followers and our viewership to promote is other people who we respect. If I find a person who is respectable, who has great things to teach, Joseph Campbell, whoever it might be, a great philosopher, a great teacher, I'd love to share these things with the public because that's what I want to use my power to do, if you call it power. My connections, I guess, with people, with you. Others want to use it to sell you more shit you don't need. And that's where the whole merchandise world comes in. And maybe I'm just old school and, maybe I grew up inundated with ads through the 70s, 80s, and 90s and was just so disgusted by the way that everything was sold to us constantly that I dreamed and yearned for a future where, the kids of tomorrow, they're not going to buy into this advertising crap. They're going to talk about real things, right? They're going to tackle real subjects. No. Just as fucking shallow as we were. I don't know what to do about it. There's nothing we can do about it except for kind of ridicule it And I guess that's why I brought up the fact that people often hide behind their minority status or being gay or trans as this like subsect or community that says you can't fuck with us because, of who we are. I know this isn't the majority of people, but it's not just them. It's a lot of people using their status to assume everyone else hates them and everyone else is a hater if they don't agree with what they think. I feel the same way about, maybe I'm getting old. I feel the same way about rappers who constantly talk about murder and pillaging and robbing. It's like, what is with you? Is this like the world you want to live in? But hey, I'm trying to keep my youthful mentality, still understanding kind of the subtext behind things. Try to be rational and see things for what they are. But I like real shit. I like real people. And the internet's full of fake ass people. Those are my thoughts. Thanks for listening. I'm out. I'll talk to you.